plankton that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
A large, hairy creature with arms that hang down beside bore down on its sides.
And I told him my name, and when I told him the name, he said he was called Code.
It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of.
You're listening to the Strangeology podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Foran, and this is your place to explore the weird, strange, and unexplained. From cryptids and creatures, the paranormal, aliens and UFOs, forbidden knowledge, ancient mysteries, conspiracies, and more. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. First episode of the new season. Joining me today is Trey from SquatchMeNow. Trey has a 20-year background in film and marketing and has been a lifelong researcher of things like Bigfoot and all things esoteric. He currently runs his own marketing agency, Howell Media, and he curates SquatchMeNow on social media, which he founded in 2019, gathering over 500,000 followers throughout all of social media, presenting some of the best evidence out there of the ever elusive cryptid we all know and love, Bigfoot. Now, Trey has been releasing a series of films, with the up and coming one being a series called Masters of the Hunt, which we'll be getting into. So without further ado, how's it going today, Trey? Oh, so glad to have you on. Can you give my listeners a little bit of more background about what it is that you do?
So, I got into film about 20 years ago. I worked in that for about 10 years. Just due to life path changes that we all go on, I ended up in New York, and that kind of just went into marketing. That's just kind of how I ended. That's the job I got. Sort of in the early days of social media content creation and strategy and all this kind of stuff, and worked in marketing there for about 5 years before I moved back to the South, where I'm from, opened my own little shop. And basically I just I was doing remote before it was cool. Before COVID, I was just putting together remote teams of digital marketing specialists or people within that world that could produce the right stuff for the brands that I was working for, instead of just, one agency that's kind of bloated, with, maybe not the right person, sort of create bespoke teams for these marketing clients. So that's what I was doing since 2017. And as far as research, so when I was about 9, I had a pretty close range UFO sighting. So that kind of just, it unlocks something in you. I don't want to say in your brain, but just in your essence. And so that sort of set me on this path. Now with Bigfoot, it's something that I think anybody that grew up as a kid with half an imagination had some level of interest in. And I always kind of leaned towards dinosaurs and ancient history and that kind of stuff. So it was always a big interest of mine. And so SquatchMeNow was an experiment. I was getting into social media marketing more and more, and I needed sort of something that I was interested in, and how can I create some value here for if anybody just wants to come here and look, hey, what's the evidence for this subject? And then also I could experiment with different social media strategies that were going on at the time, just in terms of targeting and that sort of stuff, for my clients without having to do it on their social media. I can sort of pre-run A/B test some stuff and then apply it to my clients. So, I mean, it's done pretty well. But all this time I've been working on this film project. So I started Masters of the Hunt, which is a docu-series. I want to say they're like hour to an hour and a half episodes. So that's a film in some cases.
Right.
But we have a huge story, a huge subject. I always say we need to think bigger about Bigfoot, because the spectrum of this, when I talk about all things esoteric, I mean, you can't touch on anything without coming back to human origins, which Bigfoot, however you chase this subject, or whatever thread you pull on, has some root in human origins. So, whether it's from a biblical standpoint or a biological standpoint, or wherever you're coming from, there's something there with it. And so there's a lot of different pieces that we can touch on. And so for me, Masters of the Hunt was this entity that I wanted to create that wasn't really out there. It was, I think it was Tarantino that said, create the movie you want to see.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing because I love Bigfoot content. I always, rent and buy anything that comes out on this, especially from independent producers. But this is really what I wanted to do. And so in 2019, sort of the end of the year in the winter, I started doing my first interviews and continued that until about March of 2020 when the world stopped.
Right.
So, and then, a lot of things sort of happen for everybody, I think, in the following years. So I've just been sort of chipping away at this as I could because it's such a big thing to do. Lots of interviews, lots of different types of interviews. And then a big thing for me is the presence of Bigfoot visually in the film in a big way. Because we don't get that a lot. It's an expensive undertaking. So my good buddy and former client and now a producer on this project, CP Brock, who also is the guy in our suit. He's an ex-wrestler and they went into the corporate world and he's like 6'7", 350 base, and then you put him in the suit and he's like well over 7 feet. And so he's a big guy, and we've been able to use, we started this as a sort of hybrid project. It was like, let's develop a marketing scheme for your company, your business. And we were doing lots of other marketing things, but there was one that we were playing with. And while we were doing that, we were developing different suits. We did different, prototypes, tried different appliances, and kind of landed finally on the one we're using now. It's just sort of as a base B-roll suit. And then we're going to build out different types of Bigfoot based on regional reports.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different types of Bigfoot out there, and so you're kind of starting this whole thing in the South, in Appalachia, which is an area just known for the high strangeness in general, but a lot of people think of the Pacific Northwest for Bigfoot sightings, but Appalachia has its own stories, right?
Well, I would suggest just looking at a karst map. If you look at a cave map, there's a lot of, and then you compare that to a Bigfoot sighting map, you're going to see a lot of correlations. We have a lot of caves in Appalachia. So whether there's a correlation specifically between the caves and that, I think it probably is, but who knows? Yeah, Appalachia is one of the oldest mountain chains in the world. I think the technically oldest is in Africa, but it was actually once part of the same mountain chain where Pangea split.
Right.
So, the energy there is crazy. There's lots of, and then everything's quartz and granite and everything else. The big thing I've been looking into is, in regards to the Bigfoot subject, is where do the energy lines converge and what sort of phenomenon are we looking at around there? And does that have, quantum physics is telling us that time doesn't exist. So if we're hitting some sort of energetic thinning of the veil in certain places where, these ley lines are meeting, are we just seeing through time? Is Bigfoot in some cases, not all cases, I don't think so, but in some cases we're just seeing something that's there, 10,000, 20,000, 60,000 years ago, but 60,000 years ago doesn't exist because according to quantum physics, it's all simultaneous. So, I think that's one aspect of, Bigfoot is not just is it interdimensional? Is it, physical? Is it an ape? Is it a human? What is it? I think it's all these things. I think when you're really looking at the full spectrum of the subject, you're looking at, it could be that just thing of the veil moment. It could be a relic hominid. It could be a alien. I think we're coming to terms with the concept of the multiverse a little bit more. That's becoming, that the powers that be are sort of feeding that more to us in lots of different forms of media. So is there something to that? Self-disclosure on that, and what impact? When it comes to extraterrestrials, does anything have to be extraterrestrial? Is it all just here?
Right.
Different places that we can't see, feel, or exist in at this moment. But yeah, so anyway, before we get way off track, the idea of this is just to really look at the whole subject of it. And we're starting in Appalachia, and Appalachia has a lot of legends and two of the most interesting that I think are also some of the most obscure in the Bigfoot world are the Cherokee story of Sulkaloo and sort of the Irish settler story of Hootenanny and Boojum. And these have very similar parallel narratives, but occur 600 to 800 years apart in two very different cultures, but only 19 miles apart in geographic proximity.
Interesting.
So the Cherokee story is a story of a young Indian woman who was living with her mother by herself. She hadn't found a good husband yet. Her mother's nagging her that she needs to find a husband that can provide for them to live and can bring food and all firewood and all these kinds of things. And one night, this really tall guy shows up and starts dropping deer off and firewood off and all these supplies for this young maiden. And eventually, the mother is satisfied and she goes off and marries Sulkaloo, which is kind of crazy. I mean, it's just this. It's taken as fact. This was a historical oral tale, according to the Cherokee. And she went off to live with him in a mountain. Now, today, that's known as the Devil's Courthouse. And there below that is this boulder that looks a lot like the head of a slant-eyed giant, which is what Sulkaloo meant, was the slant-eyed giant. So the devil's head is this boulder that, is probably a natural formation, but it's very interesting that if you look at it, it looks like the profile of a slant-eyed giant. And it even looks like it has pursed lips, like the mask from the Pacific Northwest of this Bigfoot. So it's interesting, sorry. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
interesting.
So right above that is where he held court, they said, with the other giants and his Cherokee queen. And below it is Judaculla Rock. And Judaculla Rock is Sulkaloo's rock. Judaculla was the Irish sort of bastardization of the word Sulkaloo. And Sulkaloo has a handprint on it where it said that he jumped off from the Devil's Courthouse and he landed and left his handprint. Now it's obviously carved, but that's the story. And then there's all these other petroglyphs on this rock that some people think are a Cherokee star map. There's all these things about it, but some people think it's a map of hunting grounds because in the story, the Cherokee kept going onto his land, and he told them basically. Eventually, the maiden's brother goes to sort of negotiate with him for hunting rights. And he says, listen, basically, you guys got to go back, get in the longhouse, smoke it out, meditate for however many days, basically until I show up and tell you can come out, which they didn't do. They only lasted a little bit of time. And so they were banned from his hunting lands. But, I guess the family drama continues from there, undocumented. That's the story of Sulkaloo. And then you have Hootenanny and Boojum. Boojum is another Bigfoot-like character who was known for collecting gems. He really liked to collect all the rubies and emeralds and stuff that are in Appalachia.
Oh, interesting.
And then his other favorite thing was peeping on girls at watering holes while they go to do their laundry and they go to bathe, and they would see Boojum, who was, they always said was not a danger to him. He never did anything to him, but he would scare these girls. They would go running off, and the posse would go after him, and they would never find anything. They might see him, but they could never catch him. And this went on, and it's actually, there was a famous hotel that burned down called the Eagle's Nest in North Carolina. And that was one of the main places that people would see him because there was a hot springs there. And a lot of rich young girls would go to this Eagle's Nest Hotel and go out to play in the springs. So that was one. But one day, Hootenanny, or Annie, went down to the spring and saw Boojum and fell in love. And she couldn't get over it. And she eventually runs away from her family and goes out to the woods to live with Boojum. But Boojum was always going away and hunting jewels. So she'd be left by herself for long periods of time. Classic story. And she would walk through the woods hooting or whooping, right?
Yeah.
For for Boojum. And so now when you have this, you sort of have this regional colloquialism in Appalachia called a hootenanny, which is like a loud party because it sounds like Annie out in the woods hooting or whooping for Boojum.
Interesting.
Now, something I found, and so what we're doing is not even, we want to start in these regional areas and say, okay, here are these two figures. They're very interesting. They depict something very similar. And then what else do we have similar to this in other places? So the actual original settlers of the area where Hootenanny and these Irish people were living was originally settled by French trappers. Now, would the French trappers have maybe seen something like this before the Irish? Probably. They were there first, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the Pyrenees in France, the Bigfoot type character is called the Bazajan. And the Bazajan has similar type characteristics to Boojum. And in the same way that the Irish sort of mispronunciated Sulcaloo as Judiculla, could have Bazajan been mispronunciated as Boojum by the Irish from something French. So I'm kind of trying to trace this stuff, like where does it go back? Not from only from a cultural perspective, but also even genetic lineage. Like, well, let's look at migration patterns from Ice Age, pre-Ice Age, where all these hominids come from, and also in other folklore and legends. So if you look somewhere in later episodes, we're going to Mexico. Because the Mexico and the Aztecs had the Kinemetzin. And the Kinemetzin were those sort of like Nephilim type giants in their creation stories that were here before and hereafter. But the last of those giants were run off, mostly massacred, according to their own folklore, but were run off into the southeastern United States a few hundred years before we get the story of Sulcaloo and Cherokee legend. And if you look at almost every major Spanish explorer that came to the Southeast has some story of running into what looked like giant natives.
Right.
And in some cases more hairy giant natives or just human giant natives. But were those the Kinemetzin? Were those for the giants, the giants that the Cherokee or that the Aztec ran off from there, and then now the Cherokee are meeting them. So we're sort of kind of really trying to trace the lineage of these stories, not just tell them, but trace the source. And so that's a big part of this, and bringing those stories to life in a very cinematic way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely can't wait to check all that out. With the tracing of the lineage of like giants and stuff, that made me think of the Kinemetzin. Have you found any kind of a connection to like the giants of Lovelock Cave, the red-haired six-fingered giants? Is there any kind of connection to that?
Okay, so on Judiculla Rock, the carving of Sulcaloo's hand has 6 fingers.
Okay. We're getting somewhere.
Somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's also in South Carolina and Georgia, there are red-haired giants that were supposedly like deer herders. And this sounds very similar also to Sulcaloo, because he sort of had deer just sort of would wander around outside his cave for him, but we'll talk about that later. But the Duhari are this almost unknown tribe of white, red-haired giant people who supposedly lived in what's now a hotspot for Bigfoot today in Georgia and North Carolina or South Carolina.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
But if you look up Duhare, I believe is how they spell Duhari, you'll find a few mentions in this tribe of people that were deer herders. They herded white-tailed deer, which is like such a crazy thing and almost like a European sounding thing to do. But
yeah.
So and they were white and had red hair. So it's very weird, like where all these stories, but they're so obscure. So I'm really trying to find the obscure stuff, the stuff that we haven't heard, over.
Yeah.
It's great to constantly sort of reintroduce this stuff, but there's also a lot that needs to be put out there and preserved because it's going to disappear. I mean, the main publication of the Sulcaloo stories in a book called Cherokee Myths. It's from 1888. It's a great book, lots of cool stories, but there's not, I mean, almost nobody knows about it, you know? So it's trying to
Out of
get that out
print,
there.
like,
Yeah. I mean, tell that story and then get it presented in a modern way that people will find interesting. Because, I mean, how many people even read anymore for a while?
True.
But to create a really visually appealing presentation of these stories. And you can start to see some of that in the promotional reels I'm posting on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all that stuff. We kind of started with some previz sketches and then ran them through AI and animated them. And then now we're using that as like previs for the actual principal photography.
Gotcha.
On those, you know, we can test out this camera move and that and this and that with the AI. So I put some of that in the hype reel. That's on the Kickstarter that we're running right now. And I just posted a reel because we had a test shoot last weekend with the Hominid story, which, you know, I think is going to be really great. You always run into logistical issues here and there. And so it's nice to sort of measure twice and cut once.
Yeah, exactly. So you're really kind of going for like, you know, the cinematic, the storytelling, the preservation of the history, connecting the dots. Are you, in addition to all of that, are you going out into the field to do any kind of on the ground investigation, trying to catch something on film?
We are. We've been running thermal drones quite a bit.
Right on.
Playing with that. I'm also I'm out with Hellbent Holler in this, Jesse and Joe from Hellbent Holler.
Yeah, I love those guys.
They do some great field work, and they also are putting together some really cool equipment that's like specialized. Like most of my gear is focused on filmmaking and that kind of stuff. I do have thermals, thermal drones and this kind of thing, but they have some very specialized gear they've actually commissioned to be made for infrasound and all these kinds of things to detect. So, and we have some very similar strategic ideas of how to go about this. So I've been talking to them for a long time. They're in my area. So they're great. And yeah, we're going out and we're not only doing that, but we're trying to develop almost in like a X-Men Danger Room style of how do we sort of set up strategies for the field. Like if we see something, how do we guarantee we get the evidence that we need? You know, if it's not, and if you're not body, if you're not, I'm not getting, and even if you are getting a body, I mean, you better have a 50 cal BMG or something at the least.
Right.
Kill it. And then, you know, the trank dart argument is like, how much would you even use it? Is you even get a dart big enough to take something like that out? So
right.
I feel like the muscle density would be pretty difficult, especially to drop it with any sort of speed that you can actually get to the body and maybe gone, right? Anybody that shot a deer that gets away knows that's hard to track sometimes. So, yeah, so, I mean, we're not on a kill mission here at all. We're on a mission for better questions, I think. You know, if you're really doing good research, all you ever really end up with is better questions.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like one of the things is, you know, you always see people asking like, oh, why are all these pictures and videos of Bigfoot blurry? Why is he blurry? I mean, can you expand on, I mean, you know, you're a filmmaker, you know, the ins and outs of the tech and all that, you know, what does it take to get a clear shot of Bigfoot if it exists versus like, you know, a 4K camera on a cell phone?
Right. Well, for me, the sort of like real long-term scalable goal for this is to put teams in the field with what they need to get that evidence, because nobody's doing that. Like Nat Geo is paying someone for years to go sit in the Arctic to get the picture of that fox. And they've given them, you know, $50,000 worth of equipment to do it. And they got to sit there. And one day, maybe, if they're lucky, they get that rare. I mean, you have to do that. I mean, if that's how this has to be played in the long run, if you want to get that visual evidence. I mean, like I said before, we're running some tactics like, you know, there's different types of, you know, do you know what an MPV drone is? It's like a racing drone. So we want to put an MPV pilot on every team. So if we're out there, not only do we have other equipment that is the right equipment for the job, because I'll be honest with you, like a GoPro is not the right equipment for the job. And I'll get into what it is, but like an MPV drone, okay, that thing's running. What are you going to run it down with? You're not going to run it down. But if we can launch an MPV or multiple MPVs in a short period of time, we might actually be able to get. So that's something we've been training to do. And then, I don't have a lens close to me right now to grab, but you need a big lens. Look at the lenses nature photographers are using and put it on some solid stabilization.
Yeah, I mean, they're like...
Yeah, I mean, I have a 200 millimeter and a 600 millimeter. And if you look at like I have a picture on the Kickstarter of me with the 600. I mean, that's about as long a lens as you're going to get. That's what you're using for shooting like a football player in an action shot, running the ball from, 25, 50 yards away, whatever it is. I mean, that's the equipment you really need if you want to get compelling visual evidence in the field. You need something like that. I mean, it's great to have the GoPros as extra coverage. I mean, that's extra coverage, and that's great. But you're not going to get the image you want. Period. And then there's all kinds of other factors. I mean, everybody says the comments are, we have the greatest cameras in history in our pockets. Why can't we? There's something called the right tool for the job, and these average like a 24 millimeter lens, 22 millimeter lens, and anything greater than that is really a digital zoom, which has all kinds of other complications as far as artifacting and just anytime. The reason you need that 600 millimeter on a solid tripod is because the further you zoom in, the more the image is going to show shake. Any shake in your hand, the tripod, whatever it is, that applies to digital zoom as well. So why can't anybody keep the shot steady? Why can't anybody, get a clear image? I mean, how many of these are right in front of the person? And if a Bigfoot ran right out in front of you, close enough to get a selfie with your cell phone, I think you're probably going to have a bowel movement before you pick your camera up and, take a picture of it. So
for sure.
I don't, so there's silly questions. I understand a lot of people just feel like saying that, or they just don't have a better understanding of how photography works. But you need a long lens. You need, if you're shooting an action shot, your shutter speed needs to be super high. The more you increase your shutter speed, the darker your image is going to get. So now you're needing like bright daylight, right, to get a high. If it's running, I mean, how fast do these things run? I don't know. I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. I have no idea. So if it's moving fast, you're going to need and then even so we actually do this. This is the question we answer sort of from the SquatchMeNow audience is, why is Bigfoot blurry? And so we set our guy in the suit out. Somebody asked on a Kickstarter post the other day, like, why do you need a guy in a suit? A lot of reasons, but one reason is we put him out at different yardages from the camera and shot him with different cameras and shot him with different lenses and shot him moving in different ways. And we show you, okay, now this is what it looks like right at the camera. And then here, you see how it still looks pretty far away at 100 yards with a 600 millimeter lens. Now we got to zoom in on that image, we got to zoom in on that video. The more we zoom in, the more pixelization you're going to get, the more degradation of the image you're going to get. And then for people like us who post this stuff online, we've gotten it from YouTube, or we've gotten it from another Instagram post. Every time it's uploaded, it's degraded more and more and more and more. And if somebody uploads it, and then I download it, and then I upload it, and then you download it from my page, and then you upload, every time it's getting to be worse and worse quality image. So not only is it not great from the start because we don't have the raw material, or it's been cropped in a lot to actually try to see what we're looking at.
Yeah.
It degrades over time over its life on the internet,
Yeah. Compression is a whole thing that really lowers the quality of what we're trying to present.
Yeah.
But blurry Bigfoot. It's just if anyone's wondering, that's kind of what we need.
Yeah, we need a crisp Bigfoot shot. The only way to do that is with the right equipment and a lot of luck, basically, or the right amount of people in the field. I mean, I would love to have be able to eventually expand this to a website that you basically have a live camera all the time on one of our guys that's out in the field, or most of the time, or on the camp, or whatever it may be. Their technology is getting there. where we could hopefully have that. And then there's just we're just funding people to be out in the right place at the right time. Look at deer migration. We look at, time of year. We look at witness reports. This is the place it needs to be. I mean, Expedition Bigfoot has kind of done that already, but, with those kinds of programs, you're going out for a certain amount of time and that's it. How can we crowdfund basically in the long term, from a scalable concept, the discovery of Bigfoot? How can we really, figure this out? I mean, it's possible. I mean, I have 500,000 followers, if a small percentage of that wanted to go towards, hey, let's really put what we got to put into answering this mystery. I think it could be done. I mean, it has to be funded by somebody. Nat Geo funds finding Arctic foxes. If we want to find Bigfoot, it's probably going to require us doing it ourselves, because obviously the establishment is not going to tell us anything.
Yeah.
Right now. Maybe when they need a distraction, we'll get something.
Maybe. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, you've got, what's the town in Washington that has the law that says you can't hunt or kill a Bigfoot, right? I mean, there's some stuff like that out there, but largely Bigfoot's still considered a fringe thing, despite thousands and thousands of pieces of witness testimony and even videographic and photographic evidence. Whether or not that stuff's vetted, is a question. I mean, how much do you think out there is hoaxed versus real?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the perspective, could I hoax this? And we look at that. That's part of it too, is looking at some of the better videos that we can actually get licensing for to show and comparing what we can create. And I can tell you that just from doing this a little bit, when I first started talking about this project years ago on a few podcasts, people said, you're going to lose credibility for having a suit. People are just going to always think that you're just faking and hoaxing stuff. But it's incredibly difficult to hoax certain things. It's difficult. You put a human being in a fursuit on uneven ground who's already, my guy that's 6'7", 350 pounds, make him walk down a mountain with clown feet on, basically. All I can say is it's dangerous. It's not easy. There are certain places couldn't get these things running through brambles and stuff he gets caught up very easily on that faux fur stuff. It's very difficult, and it's just a big person like that can't move like this. We're not physically adapted to move like something of that size could be, even if we are that size. Certainly, maybe a few people, but it's rare specimen. So can someone find the right human to actually get in the suit to be able to replicate? Now, in some cases, always look for movement. Have you seen the Siberian Yeti or Leaping Yeti or Leaping?
Yes.
So for me, that's one of the best videos of all time. For me, that's the most convincing video. And I've shown that to a lot of my associates in the film world. And it's look at this. How would we do this? How would we create this? It's not CG. I can tell you it's not CG because it's handheld. There's a lot of foliage in the foreground. Everything looks blended perfectly. No one would want to go through that if it was even possible. I mean, look at the Hulk in $200 million Disney movies. It looks like crap. Yeah. Relatively. I don't know how you would do that. I've been trying to figure it out. I've been trying to think about how could I build a suit that a human that's really athletic could do that in, and I just can't. I have some ideas, but it's still not going to be. That thing jumped over a tree trunk, a fallen giant tree.
Yeah, that's moving like an animal with 10 times the strength of the strongest human. It's yeah.
One of my first shoots, I tried to get a guy in a set of jumping stilts to just try to do something like that, and in a suit, in a partial suit. It wasn't even a full suit, and it certainly wasn't a suit that looked that good, and he almost killed himself. So he definitely got injured. We've had some, so it's difficult, but I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of trouble, and the ones that don't, there's no credit. Nobody's taking credit for it. And I know for a fact to even make a fairly basic suit, you've got thousands of dollars and time. And what's the end game here? I really don't know. Just to sit at home and go, I did that, and like one day in 40 years, you're going to tell somebody on your deathbed. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. I feel like at some point, Occam's razor starts cutting back in the direction of Bigfoot, and especially in videos for me, like the Independence Day footage, where I think about, okay, it's a pretty good suit. It looks pretty good. That person is walking down maybe like a 45-degree slope in a boulder field, staring at the camera the whole time. Never loses eye contact, except for when he goes behind the boulders. He almost never loses eye contact with the camera, watching the camera. Like, my guy has to look at his feet almost all the time. He always has that like sad Eeyore-looking Bigfoot look on his arm, because when he's walking, he's looking at his feet,
Yeah, so you don't trip.
Right, so he doesn't trip. This thing is looking at the camera the whole time. And then it has a baby.
Right.
It's moving autonomously of the creature itself. So now you're walking on a 45-degree slope down a boulder field in a Bigfoot suit with a baby puppet that's either animatronic, which would be extremely expensive, or you're having to like make it move with your hand while looking at that. I can't.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm doing this stuff for the documentary. I mean, the documentary is an excuse to learn, like, and explore the subject. It would be so difficult. I have a video from nearby of a red Bigfoot with a very conical head. It was one of the first videos I posted on SquatchMeNow, and I spent days like zooming in on this thing, trying to enhance it. It was a crappy cell phone photo from many years ago at twilight, but it's definitely like this. And we get a lot of more of the skinny, red-haired looking Bigfoots with conical heads. There's like a couple types in South Carolina, but that's one that's commonly reported. But it was carrying something on its back, and as I zoomed in and enhanced, it's obviously a deer. It's obviously a buck with, I would say, at least 4 to 6 points. So you're talking like 200-300 pounds, right?
Yeah.
It's carrying it over its shoulders through like kind of like a dry creek bed, through trees. It's in it's more like a shallow floodplain or type thing with pines in it. But it's definitely uneven ground. So now we've got some kids? Some kids filmed it. So I have like some kids that are now 7 feet tall, carrying 300-pound buck deer on their backs. The deer has its neck broke. Obviously, there's like a wound on its neck.
Oh wow!
So I don't know if the neck just broke and it's like a compound fracture sticking out, or if it's a bite. I don't know what it is, but it's hard to tell. There's a definite wound. There's definite antlers on this deer. This thing just carried over his shoulders, sauntering and looking back at the camera as it's walking through this very uneven ground, through trees, through those. That is difficult to do. I don't know. I could not put 300 pounds on my guy's back and have him do anything.
Yeah.
He'd have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And just who's finding these Bigfoot people to hoax this stuff? Now, yeah, certainly there's ones that are like, some 5-foot dude in a Walmart gorilla costume. Those are typically pretty obvious. But at the same time, we have to consider that there are Bigfoots of different sizes, juveniles. There's obviously going to be some genetic diversity. There's going to be a few stunted, I'm sure, somewhere along the lines, especially with inbreeding and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings in every corner of the United States, Canada, elsewhere in the world, of course, and there's variations to all of it. Like I'm in New England, and we have Bigfoot sightings up in this area, of course. But New Hampshire, Coos County, the northernmost county that goes borders with Canada, they have stories of wood devils who are like these skinny, like Bigfoot type creatures that will hide behind trees if they see you and you manage to catch a glimpse because they're so quick. And obviously they're not like the huge bulky, like patty type of Bigfoot, but there's variation just like in humans.
Well, there's variation. I mean, you have genetic, I think there's more significant varied genetic lineage going on here than most people give credit for. I mean, when we talk about fossilization, you're talking about a very extremely rare process. And we've already found so many hominids, so many different hominids already, that there were probably a lot more than that. I mean, you're dealing with lots of different types of things, somewhere between chimpanzee and human, basically. Somewhere between Australopithecine and a human. You have like lots of variations and lots of different types that probably existed all at the same time. I personally think this is the origin of the uncanny valley.
Oh, yes.
I think I know where the uncanny valley is physically. I mean, I know it's a psychological concept, but I feel like I know where it is physically or geographically. I think I know where that occurred. I think it has a lot to do with the our encountering physically predatory hominid or hominids. And I think civilization may have cropped up, at least in part, from those encounters. Because if you look at where the first civilizations emerged, where we had to build walls around ourselves, it's right at the Zagros Mountains. It's the edge of the Zagros. And the Zagros is where we think humans and Neanderthals first met.
Interesting. Wow.
In the Nicene Plain. And the Nicene Plain would be the floor of the uncanny valley, if you will.
Yeah.
Metaphorically. So that's kind of where each season will end on an uncanny valley episode.
Okay.
Focused on telling that, okay, we've told you all this stuff about this specific region and how these different types and stories might connect to other areas of the world. But we think this is kind of maybe where that started. And what's interesting is, did the predation of something that was, at least at that time, greater than us, from a predator perspective, lead to civilization, which led to AI, which might be the new super predator for humans.
Oh, that's a thought.
Yikes. And the uncanny valley comes from robotics.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah, they've got the whole chart where something looks like not quite human enough, and that's what really like
gave us the
freaks us out. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked human, but clearly wasn't.
Yeah. Certainly, there were several different hominid species that we coexisted with, and we outcompeted, and we're the ones that made it. But do you think there's any potential that a Bigfoot could be? I know Neanderthals were considered to be kind of shorter in stature, but now we know about the Denisovans, which they have teeth that were like twice the size of ours, larger.
Yeah. Well, they
could be larger.
The first molar was found of Denisovans was mistaken as a cave bear tooth.
Yeah,
cave bears were 14 feet tall. So something to think about for sure. Their skulls were like twice our size. And I also think we have to think about Bergman's rule in these stories, because first, Neanderthals have mostly been found in more southerly areas. And then even so, would one in a more northerly area be bigger? Based on Bergman's rule. And then with that also in mind, they were pushed, or they all just pushed to alpine regions, and could have grown larger, because while they were technically thought to be shorter in stature, they were much more robust. So they would have had the frame to grow, and we've certainly gotten taller.
Right. That's a good point.
And as hunter-gatherers, we were taller. We actually got shorter when we started civilization, started to grain, and then have slowly gotten taller over time.
Oh, yeah.
But early hunter-gatherers had much more robust skulls, more pronounced like brow ridges, bigger jaws, and much thicker bones, and all that lends itself to a thicker, more robust musculature. So even early humans, we constantly see these sketches in like textbooks and stuff, and they look like skinny dudes with pot bellies. Like, that's probably not how they looked living in the way they did, eating a 99% meat diet for 290,000 years before that's just unlikely. And that's really all they had. And you're competing, you got to think about the ones that ended up in Northern Europe in the Ice Age, competing with Denisovans, Neanderthals, saber-toothed tigers. Like, what were these what were these humans like? I mean, it makes you wonder, like, what would that encounter be? Not even just with a Bigfoot. What would it be like to encounter a human pre-civilization, and how much we've, it's like a wolf versus a golden retriever,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So, take a Neanderthal and, or some variation, because there were lots of anything. We tend to use the term relict, hominid or hominoid, but it wouldn't even be a relict. A relict is something that's left over. A relict is something that's basically been caught in some microcosmic environment that it would never change, and it just got preserved as it was. And anything that would exist today would have continued to develop, right? It would have adapted to its circumstances, its environment, so just like we have. So how does that, when we get into, did they go into caves? I mean, with the Kinemetsen, they constantly said they were going back into the ground. There's lots of different, stories of giants going back into the ground, going underground. The temples in Malta are very interesting. They were, I don't know how much you know about the temples in Malta, but they were all said to be built by giants that maybe now live underground, or at one time were living underground, and people were being fed to them. That's a whole thing. I mean, and if they go underground, if they're living there, what sort of adaptations would occur? I constantly think about the idea of eye glow versus eye shine. And if the eyes are actually glowing, what would cause that? And we found, we have bacteria living in our eyes, right? And these things, obviously, they were said to have huge eyes. There's been biofluorescent bacteria found in caves. If they're living in unknown sort of underground environments, could that have become some sort of symbiotic bacteria that lives in their eyes? And when they go out, is that bioluminescence glow?
Yeah, that's really, and I never thought about that. That's really interesting.
I mean, I think there could be the eye shine thing as well, obviously.
Yeah.
But this comes back to different lineages, different environmental adaptations. I think there's wood apes, and I think there's probably some hybrid Neanderthal. If in your area of the world, we get a lot of Neanderthal-looking reports, and up into that area, that side of Canada. Your area of the world has indigenous story I really want to get into when I get up there, which is the Janoskwa. I don't know how familiar you are with the Janoskwa.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, so the Janoskwa, or the Iroquois, is like evil Bigfoot. They were the stone giants. They were cannibals. This is a story. This is like the Lovelock Cave type stuff, but having with the Iroquois in your sort of New York and Northeast Canada and that kind of area, where they were the stone giants. They were said to live on the ridges. The granite ridges of, like, I guess, upper Appalachia, basically.
Yeah.
And they would roll in the granite dust. And they would come, the oils in their skin and everything would hold the granite dust to their fur and to their skin. And so they would look like they already had gray skin and gray hair. And so when the granite dust would stick to their skin, they would look like rock people. So they were called the stone giants. And the stone giants would come down and steal babies to eat and women to whatever, and kill the men, and they would raid every once in a while. They would carry clubs and they had conical heads.
Wow!
So they're a crazy indigenous story. I know all the stories are different. So we're obviously dealing with different. We're even seeing like early hominids show culture and discoveries like burials and ritual burials and that kind of stuff. So why wouldn't these Bigfoot have more culture than we are really giving them credit for? And in that case, what's going on with all these different types? Some are good, some are bad. They're just like people. They're just like humans. They are humans to some extent, different types of humans or human relative in some way. The Janoskwa are a really interesting one that I want to get into. And they eventually would start like giving women and deer and other stuff. Just here's our offering for you to go away.
Right.
So the Iroquois out of all those stories, here's like 2 maidens and 10 deer or whatever, leave us alone for a little while. And they're basically paying tribute to the Janoskwa, which, is very similar to like King Kong. I always say King Kong was the first Bigfoot movie because the original King Kong wasn't 60 feet tall. I think he was only supposed to be like 20 feet tall or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Huh.
And then, and so he was exaggerated anyway. But then there's very similar type, Bigfoot stuff around King Kong. They had just found the gorilla,
Right.
But gorilla is what they knew when they made that movie.
Yeah.
But Bigfoot's a big thing, man. It's so big and it's so important, I think. So while I have a lot of fun with it, and I like to have fun with the filmmaking aspect of it, everything, I think there's a lot for us to learn about ourselves in a lot of different ways from the Bigfoot subject and the study of the Bigfoot subject, not just our origins, but how we respond to things, just go look at, how we respond to new information, how we think about the world. I think when you look at even just things like Bigfoot reports, you get a lot more out of the Northeast or the Northwest, but what's the culture there? Where I am, it's very hard to get people to talk about it because we're still in the Bible Belt to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
And not even people that are super religious. You have just people that's just not cool, they're not necessarily into mystical and paranormal and all that as much. That's not the culture. So our reports, we all go by where's Bigfoot the most, where's the top place to see Bigfoot. It's always based on regional reports, but what other factors impact regional reports? Does that necessarily mean that's where the highest populations are? Or that's just where the most people are reporting it because they're willing to report it?
Right.
You get a lot of stoic hunters here. I've got one buddy, a stoic country boy hunter type, he only gets that story out when he's had a few drinks in him.
Sure.
And then his wife's coming over at the party saying, shh, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
And that's even if you get him to talk about it. So,
yeah. I'm sure there's some fear of ridicule too, because it's such a fringe topic,
Well, it happens. I mean, they do get ridiculed. He gets ridiculed because he has let it slip a few times. He does get ridiculed. People jab him about it. No problem for me. I don't care. But it's also just not something I necessarily bring up unless I know the right situation, or unless I just find somebody that I'm like, I know this guy might know something, like a cop or a outdoors guide or something like that. I know I had a client meeting. I don't think I got the client. I had a client meeting with an outdoors guide company, and I had to bring it up. I had to be like, so see anything else? Like the first meeting,
right?
It was like the first meeting, but it's a cool subject, man, and it's everywhere, and it's so deep in every aspect of of the cultures here. We just don't realize it. It's not really talked about anymore. I think it was probably a lot more talked about, probably at one time, especially in the Cherokee world. Though there were some aspects of the sort of interbreeding part being taboo. There's a story in the low part of the state, like the swampy part of the state of South Carolina, not North Carolina. There's a Cherokee story of a small Bigfoot, like a 5-foot man Bigfoot.
Interesting.
That all the women liked because he was super strong, but he was only like 5 feet tall or something. He was shorter than the other men, but he was super strong and a good hunter. And so all the women were like clamoring for this guy. There's lots of different stories, lots of different types. There's little people in that book I was talking about, List of the Cherokee. There's these little people, and they were so small. It's not the Moon Eye people, it's something completely different. They were like little Cherokee. They were just like tiny little Cherokee, and this is how small they were. So let me tell you, a Cherokee hunting party goes through their village, sees them, interacts with them, spends the night. On their way back, all of them are gone. All the little people are gone, and they realize that they've been decimated by the people tell them that they've been. The little people tell the Cherokee that they're being attacked by storks. The Cherokee, this is like a movie. The Cherokee teach them to fight the storks, and then they leave. Then they come back and they see that there's no battle, and the little people have been decimated by this flock of storks. But this is like a Cherokee version of Tolkien or something. It's like this crazy story. So there's so many good stories. We're all going to do Bigfoot stories to start. I might venture off into some of this other stuff if I can do if I have the time and energy to do bonus content. But eventually what I want to do is after the first season and after each season to put out an anthology of just the cinematic retellings.
Yeah.
Lined up from that season. So here's season 1's, 6 or 7 stories, or whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. There's so many stories, so much folklore, like in New England and in the Midwest, there's the native legends of the Pukwudgie, which are these diminutive human you want to call them goblins, gnomes, elves, and there's stories up in Alaska, up in the Pacific Northwest, everywhere, it's this.
Yeah, the little people are everywhere too. And for me, the Bigfoot subject for me is really anything that is sort of a mammalian, humanoid, hominid type thing, of any size for me. Because Bigfoot just comes from, they found tracks of some of the Bigfoot. So mostly, but I think all those other, the Hobbit and Homo florensis in Flores, you can't really extract that from the Bigfoot phenomenon. It's obviously an important asset. It's a small one. It's something small, but it's on an island. It's just like Bergman's rule that says in northerly, colder areas, animals get bigger. On the small little islands, you have, that are with animals that are isolated. You tend to have miniatures. You have miniature elephants. I think on Flores, maybe. And so you have this sort of smaller hominid creature. So yeah, all of that to me fits in this greater phenomenon. Little people, big people. They're all a bunch of people that were all, it was at one point, I really think we were dealing with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it really kind of seems like that in a certain way, for sure. I'm curious, what's your take on kind of the more woo factor of Bigfoot encounters and that kind of thing? Because, a lot of people report coinciding high strangeness. You've got mind speak, UFO sightings, portals, Bigfoot transforming into a log. There's all these weird and interesting stories. Is that anything you're going to cover or?
Yeah, absolutely. So this, and I'm only covering what I find in my research, but it's all there. And that's why I say you have to not exclude any of these factors. You got to think bigger about it, because if you open your mind to look into it, you're always going to find it, I think. So mind speak, which is telepathy, which CIA is classified as being a reality of some sort. They have some scientific precedent for it, in humans at least. It's something we cover in the first episode for sure, because Sulkalu was said to, wherever he was, he knew their thoughts. And he spoke from the air, even though he couldn't be seen. And sometimes he could be seen, but he spoke from the air. So to me, that sounds like telepathy.
Yeah.
And then we have to play into, there's other variations of the story where animals would just hang out outside his cave, and he would go out and just sort of harvest what he wanted. And these guys, hence the name, were known as the lords of the game, or the masters of the hunt. So the lords of the game, the masters of the hunt, they were the greatest hunters ever. They could just control the animals. They were their masters. So the question is, was that just sort of physical ability, or was there some sort of telepathic ability that aided them in this? And for me, from an evolutionary perspective, if you look at just, let's say, Neanderthals and Denisovans, and say maybe those two types, or one of those, some hybrid of those two types with humans perhaps, migrated here at some point into the United States. And I think there's various other options, but let's just say we do that. They had bigger brains. We now think that Neanderthals, we don't know as much about Denisovans, but we know they were related and they were larger. We now think Neanderthals maybe were as smart as us in a different way. Their brains worked differently. And their brains were larger, and the Denisovan brains were larger. So if you're using that brain in a different way, what could it do? And if you are a pack hunter, and in evolution, I mean, the primary thing here is survival. The primary thing here is getting food and reproducing. Is there any evolutionary need to be able to talk to your other hunters without speaking, without making noise? I feel like there would be for an apex pack hunter.
Yeah.
That's highly evolved. So that might be maybe where it would have adapted that ability. Now, when we get back to the story of Sokolu and him, the Cherokee saying that he had it, how was he using it? And was it at all used in the courting of this Cherokee maiden? Why did she? Because it said that he looked hideous. It said that anybody else saw him, they would be horrified to look upon him. But she was fine with it. So was she just? I mean, it's really sort of a Beauty and the Beast story, like a Neolithic Beauty and the Beast. So tale as old as time, apparently, because we have genetic evidence of this. We have genetic evidence of humans interbreeding with Neanderthals and Denisovans. So is that what happened? But in this case, was he using his mind control to have her go off with him? There's probably, if you have a small population, there's probably a need to interbreed with humans for that sort of genetic diversity.
Right.
Melba Ketchum's DNA study, for whatever it's worth, said that we're dealing with a female mother, obviously a mother that's human, and a father that's an unknown male. I mean, our folklore is lending itself to that. We have North indigenous folklore, or not even more recent reports, early 1900s reports of this happening to Native American women in the Pacific Northwest. And then, was he manipulating her mind the way he was doing animals? And if he was that what Boojum was doing with Hootenanny? Is that why she went crazy and ran? I mean, why would these? In both cases, we see that other people would be horrified by the look of this creature. There were girls that would go bathe in the Hootenanny story. They would go bathe in the creeks, and they would see Boojum peeking at them while they bathed in the creeks, and they would run off screaming, and a posse would go out and look for Boojum. Annie didn't seem to have a problem with it. I'm calling we don't have an official name for the girl in the Cherokee story, but I'm calling her Elu. It's just a Cherokee name that means grace. And, she wasn't afraid of him, but everybody else was afraid of him. So is it just that they could their love was just deeper than his looks? Is that what it was? Or was there something else going on? So that's the mind speak aspect of it. I think that's an interesting subject, since we have it in the indigenous folklore mentioned. And telepathy has been, 2019, CIA declasses documents on telepathy. And then, what is when it comes to portals, Appalachia is an energetic place. There's a lot going on there. We have orbs with the Brown Mountain lights. Brown Mountain has a lot of sightings. So we have these weird orbs going on. We have supposedly some government dumb bases. So you always got to want to know, like, why supposedly one in Black Mountain. So why does the government want to be there? These are the oldest mountains in the world that split during Pangea, from one set of the oldest mountains in the world. There has to be some energetic resonance there, and would it have been captured in the granite and the quartz that area is filled with? And what does that cause in terms of time distortion, interdimensional distortion, just electromagnetic field in general, and the implications of that? What does that allow us to experience, since time doesn't exist according to quantum physics, and other dimensions exist according to quantum physics, and what all that means for us in this subject and beyond? I think it's interesting, for sure.
Yeah. There's so much you can get into. My God, it's a wild rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah. I thought we got UFO disclosure before Bigfoot. I never thought that would happen. I really thought Bigfoot being very somewhat grounded subject. We have fossil evidence of things that look somewhat like this. That would be something easy to just tell the people, but looks like we're getting UFOs first. So what makes it crazy is people or okay, UFO's real, that makes sense, but Bigfoot still is. No, come on, Bigfoot, come on, guys. We're in a crazy time. There's a lot of stuff coming to
Yeah.
So you're doing a great job of putting information out there to help people sort of wake up to new things they never heard of or thought of.
Yeah. I try. Thank you. There's a lot of topics. Like yourself, and my listeners know, I grew up being into books on Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, sightings, all that stuff. So it's just finding your people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would say look at since Loch Ness Monster. I've been thinking about dinosaur ghosts a lot lately.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah.
Think about what are dinosaur ghosts, and we're talking about time doesn't exist. We talked about this a little bit earlier, I think, before we got on, but look at ley line maps. That's a great rabbit hole to go down and look at paranormal events around those areas where ley lines intersect. There's two that intersect right before Loch Ness. And then you have this pool of water, right?
Yeah.
Is the Loch's freshwater?
I believe it is. Yeah.
So that's interesting. It'd be more interesting with salt because you have this sort of conductive element in there. But
Right.
you have this, water itself seems to have some portal thing going on. And then if you just think about, like, for instance, not a ley line thing, but definitely electromagnetic resonance thing, the Bermuda Triangle is basically where we think the meteor that killed the dinosaurs hit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also where the deep sea UFO base is that they were
Right.
talking about a few months back. Yeah.
But did that event create some sort of energetic resonance? Would the UFOs want to go there because there's electromagnetic source of energy there or resonance there from that?
Yeah.
Is that disrupting, space time? And that's why we have incidents there. It's all floating. It's all like right there in that salt water where a lot of different sort of ocean currents and stuff meet too. So, a lot going on. But yeah, man, that's dinosaur ghost is the Loch Ness is a plesiosaur that we're seeing because of a distortion of space time due to something going on with the electromagnetic field in that particular area at some points.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Gee, we could keep going for a real long time, but I think we're just about at the top of the hour here. So as some closing thoughts, do you have any advice for people who want to get into things like Bigfoot research, investigation, filmmaking, that kind of thing? Because obviously, the more people that are at this stuff, the quicker we might find some solid evidence.
Well, if you're going into field research, obviously you want, I think, the right tools to start with are the right camera gear, right? If you really want to get good footage, if that's your goal, what is your goal? You need to figure out, what is my goal? Do I want good visual evidence? If so, you're going to need the right footage, and you're just going to need to park, the right equipment, the right tools for the job, and you got to park yourself in the right place for a long period of time and try to get something. And that right tool is a long lens, the longest lens you can get on a sturdy tripod. That's going to get you the shots you need. Now, if you need to fund that, just shoot wildlife while you're out there and post that quality footage for stock footage, and people will buy your nature stock footage, put it on a Instagram or whatever, you put it on your YouTube, and people will love to watch that kind of stuff. If you have those long lenses, you get that really beautiful nature shot. That's what nature photographers use. So if you're trying to get a good image of Bigfoot, go look at what nature photographers are using. Go get on YouTube, see what nature photographers use, and use that. Now, if you want a greater strategy in order, drones. Can you use something I'm doing is using the thermal drones to identify a target that's within range of my long lens, waiting till I can get to the right moment and then hitting it with a bright spotlight so I can then get the image with the long lens. I think that's one way to do it. And it's basically like deer spotting, but using a thermal. None of this is actually legal for animals, for shooting, hunting or anything. But obviously that would be very illegal to do for hunting, but we're just trying to find Bigfoot here. So that's something we've been, a tactic we've been training on, a few other things. There's not really, I say learn the equipment. If you're trying to just research Bigfoot from like behind your computer, just chase everything, man. Read as much as you can. You're going to find something else. And obviously listening to podcasts, I feel like if you're doing something else and you're just listening, you got to engross yourself in the subject so much. You got to just jump down the rabbit hole and let go of the sides, basically. I mean, listen to it all the time. Something's going to strike you and you're going to go look somewhere else for something. And just follow, keep pulling the threads. And don't limit yourself. There's no limit to this. It's bigger than you have a lifetime. Just this subject, and why I focus on just this subject for the most part, is that just chasing this is a lifetime of work. There's, I saw a UFO at 9 years old, so I'm convinced that whatever that is, it's real. Whether it's government, whether it's refab government, whether it's from something else, interdimensional, whatever, that's real. That's happening. I feel like there is enough circumstantial evidence, if you will, to prove this is a real thing. I feel like I don't have to find a body. I feel like the research I already have that I'm going to drop throughout the series that I'm producing is enough to convince any person that there's something to this. I really do. I think there's enough to it. I mean, we're starting at the beginning of time, basically, and going all the way through to modern day and showing you everything that's going on and answering all your debunking questions. And I really feel that it takes a lot of work, and you have to do a lot of this. People would be like, explain to me why you think Bigfoot's real. I mean, do you have 6 weeks? How do I put that into maybe a total 8-hour series or something like that? It focused on these different areas. I think everybody will have a much better idea that there's some substance to this. There's some significant weight to this issue. And not only is there weight to it, not only is there reality to it, but there's importance to it for us as human beings. That is very important to who we are. And once we can really grasp the bigger picture of it, it answers a lot of questions about us and where we come from, and also poses a lot of new questions that we should continue to pursue.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for that perspective. Before we go, can you let my listeners know where to find you online, your Kickstarter, social media, all that?
Sure. So if you just go to Google, basically search SquatchMeNow, all the pages pop up. Instagram, it's SquatchMeNow. Just search for it. I mean, it's got some spaces in between, but you'll find it. TikTok, SquatchMeNow. YouTube, SquatchMeNow. Facebook, SquatchMeNow. It's all those pages. We are rehabbing a new website. It'll be SquatchMeNow.com, but it's not out yet. I want everybody just to go to Kickstarter right now. You don't have to support. For $5, you get a shout out on any or all of our pages. And then there's various other tiers that you also get a shout out and compounded rewards at every tier. But just to check out, follow the project. That's where it's going to be for now. There will be some stuff exclusive to all the other platforms that you can go see, little tidbits behind the scenes, all of that kind of thing. Just stay tuned. That will be up for about another 45 days, I think. So most of the information around this particular project will be there, other than little teasers on the social media to send you to the Kickstarter. But yeah, there's going to be some cool. There's already some behind the scenes. Each week I'll be releasing some different behind the scenes stuff. New footage, new trailers, kind of telling you about the struggles and everything that goes into this, because it's a lot of work, and there's always logistical aspects that create an added difficulty. Sort of needs its own show to itself. We're trying to do something like this.
Yeah.
Who you run into, what people want to know, what the heck are you doing with Bigfoot? Like, they're doing funny things. Like, my guy really doesn't want to go on, and I understand he doesn't really want to go on any public land, so we don't want to get shot.
Right.
Bigfoot,
Yeah.
So we're having to use a lot of private land, lease private land, rent private land. locations, that kind of stuff, so that we can really lock it down. Because there's a chance that, you know, somebody's like, even if they don't think he's Bigfoot, maybe they think it's some other kind of big hairy animal. He could get shot.
Yeah,
could happen. So
yeah. That is a risk.
Yeah, just and if you go to Kickstarter.com, you can just search Masters of the Hunt. You'll find the campaign, you'll find the hype reel, and everything else that I'm posting on there as updates as to what's going on with the project for the next couple months.
Great. Oh, we'll make sure to get all that in the show notes for listeners out there. And Trey, thank you so much again for coming on the show today. Great to chat with you.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again to Trey for coming on to the show today. Definitely check out SquatchMeNow on all of his social media, his YouTube channel, as well as his Kickstarter for the Masters of the Hunt series. I'll have that all linked in the show notes. Definitely support his work. Well, I hope you liked the hit the ground running style with this episode and just getting into it for the new season. I've been reading and listening to your comments out there, so we're trying out saving updates, shout outs, and all that for the end of the show just to see how that works. And the show, of course, has been on hiatus a little longer than expected, which is another reason to just get going with it. I wasn't planning on this big of a break and not starting the new season 4 months into 2025. Well, life sometimes throws you curveballs, and you got to take with the bad with the good, I suppose. So thanks for bearing with me while I've been busy working on things at home. Renovations are still ongoing, but hopefully we'll be finished up by the end of the year at best. But who knows? You never know. Things can get delayed and all that. But in the meantime, I've set up a temporary studio in another spot of my house, aka my bedroom, so we can just keep things rolling. But anyway, in the better news department updates, if you don't follow me on social media, which you should, I'm also going to be attending Contact in the Desert this year out in Indian Wells, California, which happens at the end of May and through the first couple days of June. It's this massive event. A lot of the big name speakers in the world of ufology and high strangeness are out there, and they asked me if I wanted to do a live podcast during the event, interviewing a guest speaker of my choice for that, which is just wild. I'm still wrapping my head around it, so stay tuned for that and more updates. They've also connected me with a bunch of other speakers who are going to be at Contact this year, who I'm getting a chance to interview in the coming weeks prior to the event. And there's some big names coming, so stay tuned. This is going to be out of this world, quite literally, and I'm so here for it and super stoked for all of you out there who listen to the show to check out who I'm going to be talking to. I just, you get a little starstruck sometimes. So it's just, it's wild. So stay tuned for all that. We're going to be trying to be releasing episodes since Contact is only like 8 weeks away at this point. And I'm going to be trying to release episodes weekly leading up to this because there's so many people that I'm going to be talking to. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It's going to be really quite the undertaking, but it's going to be awesome. As far as other events lined up for this year, the usual vending stuff, I am confirmed for Squonkapalooza 3 in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. That's going to be happening in early August. I'll have more details in a little bit. And we'll, of course, be attending the next Whitehall Sasquatch Calling Festival. That's an awesome event that happens in Whitehall, New York at the end of every September. And I'm hoping to get into Mothman Fest this year, but we'll see. There's such a long waiting list. And yeah, most of the awesome events are a pretty big distance for me to travel, but maybe we can make some things work out for some other events. But with all the home renovations and how busy I am this year, my partner's also traveling a lot for work now. I don't think I'm going to be able to attend as many events as usual, but we'll see what we can work out. Stay tuned on that front. I'll, of course, be announcing here on the website and on social media whenever I've got a new event that I'm doing. As always, I want to give a huge thank you out there to everyone who checks out the Strangeology podcast. Those of you who download it, share it with friends and family. It helps me out so much when you do that. The Strangeology podcast, what I'm doing with this wouldn't be possible without the support of listeners like you. And hey, this is the completion of the 5th year. Strangeology is 5 years old this April, and it really wouldn't be possible without all of your support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I mean it. On with the next. So to any advertisers or companies out there looking to collaborate with the Strangeology podcast, or if you are an author, expert, experiencer, researcher, enthusiast of the Fortean umbrella, the high strangeness, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, paranormal, and you want to have an appearance on the show, be considered for it, please send all business inquiries and interview inquiries to info@strangeology.com. And if you haven't yet, make sure to give me a follow over on all of my social media accounts. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, TikTok, Threads. I'm most active, of course, posting short form content to the more video oriented social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, as well as Facebook. I do a lot of short form factoid videos on cryptids, mysteries, conspiracies, and all that. So if I haven't released a new episode in a little while, you can always go binge watch some stuff over there. That helps me out too when you do that. Definitely check it out. All the links will be in the show notes. If you want to support the show, you can do so by becoming a member over on my Patreon. The address is patreon.com/strangeology. Links will be in the show notes, but you can sign up for as little as $1 per month. Any support helps me out a ton and really does help keep the lights on here at Strangeology HQ and helps me to get this thing to the next level and upgrade equipment and all of that. There's a whole bunch of different tiers. Higher tiers unlock more perks like early access to new episodes and long format videos, which are also ad-free. You also gain access to the members only episode extensions, Strangeology Beyond, which are sometimes a whole other research topic episode or extended guest interview. There's also a merch discount for my shop, exclusive merch for members, voting powers on topics I cover, behind the scenes bonus content, and more. So if you want to join a growing community of like-minded people who love the strange and unexplained, it's a great place to be. Also, if Patreon is not your thing, I'm also working on uploading my back catalog of Strangeology Beyond episode extensions over on my YouTube channel, which you can get to by going to youtube.com/@Strangeology. So it's going to take me a while to get through. At this point in time, I've got 70 episodes to go through. I've got 3 up so far, trying to do like 1 a week, so it's a big undertaking. But anyway, I appreciate the support, and the more of it I get, the more content I can create for everyone out there. And to those members out there, past and present, thank you so much for all of the support over these past 5 years. And of course, if you're looking for another way to support Strangeology, check out my merch over on my Etsy shop, strangeology.etsy.com. I've got a whole assortment of cryptid, alien, Fortean gear available on apparel like t-shirts, tank tops, which warmer weather's coming, so you might want to pick some of those up. I've got long sleeves, sweaters, hoodies, and so much other different merch. Stickers, magnets, prints, mugs, tumblers, enamel pins, so much more. I've recently updated the shop with a number of new designs, with more always being added, so definitely check that out when you get the chance. I appreciate it so much. Well, that's all for the regular show today. After this quick break on Strangeology Beyond, Trey was able to hang out for a good while longer to chat about his UFO encounter and more on Bigfoot. You won't want to miss it. Also, it's really great to be back. Thanks, guys. So, patrons, stick with me for Strangeology Beyond, your members' exclusive portion of the show. And for everyone else, until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and keep it strange. All right, welcome back, members, to Strangeology Beyond, your exclusive portion of the show. Trey, thanks for sticking around for a little bit longer. Really glad to have chatted.